Welcome back. Now, if you're watching Rubbin Minds right now, it means you're most likely young or young at heart, I want to believe. And if you're young at heart, then there's no way you wouldn't have heard of the Future Awards before. Now, the 9th edition is going to be holding on Sunday. And Adebola Williams is still here with me. He's the co-founder of the Future Awards Africa. Thanks for coming again. Now, let's talk about the Future Awards. And the 9th edition is going to be holding this Sunday at Intercontinental Hotels. What are we expecting differently this year? Let's start with that.
Differently. The Future Awards, has over the last 9 years been set out to inspire change amongst young people, to correct stereotypes, to fire up that young African who says that because there is no light, no water, because there's malaria or Ebola, I can't be successful. To basically say to them that no, it is possible. You just need to tap into that thing inside of you. So every year we have said that the evening of the awards is always an evening of hope and inspiration. It's an evening to renew our faith in our country, in our continent. And that is what the 9th edition is also about. It's going to be an evening of charges. It's going to be an evening, celebrating the brightest and the best on the continent. It's going to be an evening to inspire. It's going to be an evening to give hope. Because you see, Ebuka, we constantly need to be reminded of hope in our nation. There is so much going on. I mean, we spoke earlier, about politics, and you said something about, being a politician. I'm not a politician, but I would do what I do, and I would also speak with wisdom, But what is important is that that word politician needs to change from people attributing it to negativity. I gave a speech 2 days ago, and I said to them, I said, people need to begin to see their roles in government as an assignment. It's beyond going there and trying to make people happy, which was why Fashola stands up, because he wanted to work. So coming back to the event, is the fact that people need their hopes renewed in the continent. They need to have faith again in our people, in our values. So it's not necessarily about coming to do something new. Of course, the entertainment will be new, will be interesting. Of course, the winners are new, they're different. Of course, the charges will take a different turn. Of course, the keynote speech will be interesting. But for me, it's important that that message is not lost, that our continent can be great, and that the power for the continent to be great lies between you and I.
This is the 3rd edition that's been Africa-wide, yes. Right? This is the 3rd time it's been Africa-wide. And I want to ask about, how you end up with your nominees, because even with, well, it was just a Nigerian event. I've been on the panel a few times, trying to select nominees and all of that, and I know how tedious it is, with how big Nigeria is. Sometimes people are like, okay, maybe it's a little too Lagos. Let's try and make it more Nigerian, And that was such a fight at the time. But with Africa, it's even a bigger and a wider scope. How have you managed to come up with all of the nominees you've done? I mean, I saw names from Uganda, from South Africa. How did that happen?
So first, in the last 7 years, before we went fully African, we had been doing work across the continent. We've been engaging in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Egypt. We've been doing different kinds of engagements. So we already had contacts in those countries. So for us, it's about using the media, to tell the stories, to find the stories. So we had partners like Africa Magic, Mnet. We use the internet a lot. We partner with websites in different countries that will help us, push the medium and push the message rather. And then, of course, we worked with different organizations, sent out the messages, they sent to their newsletters, asked people to nominate young people who were working, who they knew their stories deserved to be told, across the continent. So it was a mix of the internet, the media, television, radio, and all the works, referrals from key people in different fields, contact with different NGOs up to the African Union level, who we had worked with to send in nominations. And that was how we were able to come in with, with the different nominees.
How's the response been from those countries in particular who have seen, okay, this Future Award, what is it about? Why should we care? What has the response been?
Interesting. Interesting. And to say that next year we will be holding events, in a couple of the African countries, because they were really excited. The reason why we took the platform across the continent is because we find that the problem of Africa is synonymous. From Uganda to Zambia, Zimbabwe to Rwanda, it's the same problem of hopelessness and helplessness. People do not have hope. People do not have any help. There's no social welfare. There's a clear cut that those who are successful, care about themselves. And if you're down there, you're down there. And so if you're a regular young man who has no connections, no education, nothing, you feel helpless. Yeah. And then you do not have hope because there are no systems as well that you can trust in. The government is not doing anything for social welfare. There's no social contract between the people and the government. And you're also not seeing successful people who can even tell you stories that you can connect with. for a long time, Rebecca, you did not know the story of Dangote. It was just about 2-3 years ago. And so before then, whenever you said, oh, I want to be like Dangote, you did not say it because you wanted to go through the ropes. You said it as a wish. So it was not
money.
Yes. So it was not a real hope. So until platforms like the Future Awards begin to tell the stories, and we began that 9 years ago. So when other African countries received the platform, they realized that, okay, this platform actually helps us renew the faith of our young people in themselves, in our country, and we then charge them, to become someone that can then affect the economy and ultimately build new leaders for our nation.
Yeah. You mentioned leaders there, you talked about Dangote and the need, people who have role models and all of that. And one thing that struck me there is, with Future Awards, one of my most interesting parts for me for every award I've attended has been the keynote speech. We've had very powerful ones in the past from, people like Obi Ezekwesili. They've given powerful speeches. And this year you've gone with two very interesting people who, how did you arrive at those names, first of all?
Well, so again, the awards has always been set up, to inspire enterprise. To build enterprise. So we want to build young people who are entrepreneurs. We want to build young people who are employed, young people who have capacity, economic capacity. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we want to inspire leadership. So when we started the awards in 2005, the idea was that by 2025, it will be 20 years. And at that time, the people who were nominated for the awards in 2005, who were 18, by then they'll be 38. The ones who were 23 will be 43. The ones who were 28 will be 48. Who are these people? They are the guys who will be getting into politics, who will be leading the country in government. Now, they would have had 20 years of adding value, of being innovators, inventors. Their minds will work differently. These are the ones who will see the roles in government as an assignment where they need to put their skills in. So this year, at the 9th edition, we've brought Fanny Luthier, who has been dubbed African Queen of Development, who works in private equity and financing, to come and talk about enterprise. And then we have a governor who has been named the one who tamed, the wildest city in the world, So he's going to be talking on leadership. So the idea is to now give a mix of both ahead of our 10th anniversary next day, which would be, really huge. And again, of course, you'll be a step further, from what we've done this year.
Today, okay.